Hello and welcome back to episode 30 of the Tall Boy Radio podcast. This week we're joined by a guest. You've heard his voice on here before twice, talking about the Nexus board and 50% of Lost Souls and the beautiful song that he sung at the end of, I forget which episode it was, but we played that one. So you've also heard a few stories about him as well, I think, haven't we, Gaz?
We have.
So we're joined by Sid, which, believe it or not, is Gaz's younger brother. So if you want to say hello, dude, tell us what you're drinking.
Hello, I'm just drinking orange juice tonight, fortunately, guys.
There you go. And as usual, we're joined by Gaz.
Hi, guys. I'm drinking Garden out of a genuine TBR merch glass. And it's good to see you again, guys.
Indeed.
Good plug.
Wow.
Good plug.
Andy?
I'm drinking Vermont Vacation. Don't know if you can see that. Drinking out of a San Miguel glass.
San Miguel. That's a cloudy one.
Nice work.
And Ken?
Currently got in from work about 25 minutes ago. So yeah, I've got a coffee and a Dead Man's Finger lime rum with cream soda.
Fair play. Interesting mix. And I'm drinking a Titanic Cherry Dark. So it's a particularly good one. As you know, I like my fruit beers, and I particularly like the beers from Titanic Brewery as well. So before we get started then on tonight's topic, we've got a little bit of any other business that we just want to get out of the way first. So I've got a couple of shout outs that I wanted to do. And I know Gaz has got a couple of things he wanted to mention. So we'll go around and see if anybody wants to say hello to anybody else. So just briefly, you know, in terms of this podcast, this is episode 30 that we're on now. So there's a couple of people I want to say thank you to for helping us to get where we've gotten today. Obviously, you've got Lemon Co Clothing, who've been good enough to sponsor us for the last 30 episodes. But people like Tiddy and Shiner and from the Tiddy and Shiner Show podcast have been very supportive, giving us all the information that we've needed, giving us pointers on the things that we're doing, and it's greatly appreciated. We're big fans here of the Tiddy and Shiner Show. Give them a listen every single week, and you guys should too. A couple of other people that I want to mention is obviously Bill. He supported us a fair bit, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And he's got something else in the offering for us, which is a little bit more pleasant than hot nuts. We've got some beer. Not going to say too much about it now, but we've got some beer winging its way from the States for us to try, gratis from a very large American company. It sponsors one of my favorite YouTube channels as well, but we'll say more about that later. And then finally, just wanted to say a big thank you to Dave Cartledge. As you know, we all know Dave here, I think, in some capacity. He given the podcast a listen and said, you know what you guys need? You guys need a website. I said, I know literally nothing about that. And he told us how to sort that out. So we bought the domain name, tallboyradio.com. Go check it out. And taught me through how to use the keyboard to do other things other than Google. So we now have a functioning website that we can add to as well. We will be adding to it. At some point, I'd like to add a blog in the very near future that we can all contribute to. And eventually, once we finalise the design for the logo, which can then be replicated on T-shirts and everything, we can add a shop at some point. But, you know, I think we need the demand for that before we create the supply. So those are my... Sorry, go on, Ken.
No, I was just saying, I think it's fantastic to see where you've gone from the initial from the initial jump point, and now you've got your own website, and I think it's fantastic. So full credit to you guys for keeping this, from taking this on and keeping it going. So well done, guys. Congratulations. Well done. Very proud of you. Very, very proud of you.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers, dude.
Gazzy, you had a few things to mention, didn't you?
Yeah, just a couple of people that I'd like to say. So thanks to really, and a bit of a shout out. Obviously, we've got Dave from Double Trouble, who obviously sort of Adam and myself are in sort of contact with sort of social media wise. They're massive supporters of us as much as I suppose we are of them as well. So, and I suppose a bit of a shout out to Jamie Caven, also known as sort of Jabba the Darts player, who has agreed to let me basically pay £10 to play him in the Double Trouble double challenge, which is something that obviously you guys will be hearing a lot more about. He sort of tweeted something along the lines of, "Oh, I'll definitely get involved with that." I then messaged him and said, I don't mind giving you a game, mate. I don't mind paying a tenner to charity, not really expecting anything back. And he messaged me straight back and said, yeah, no worries, mate, we'll sort that out. So he's been away this weekend. He said he'll drop me a private message at some point this week. So no doubt I'll be paying another tenner towards the charity when Jabba decides to beat me. What was quite disconcerting was I hit 4 double tops in 9 darts. And he was like, yeah, pretty good. Yeah, not bad. I would expect to hit sort of 6 or 7. And I was like, I'm in the world of trouble there. So that'll be me, no doubt, giving away another tenner. But it's for a great cause. And obviously, once we've got Dave from Double Trouble back on, he can sort of give us a bit of an update and sort of things how we're going. And that ties in very nicely with the rum tasting that myself, Andy and Adam are involved with. We're involved in their rum tasting panel. And what I did notice was there was a social media message, I think, to Andy along the lines of sort of, was it no Vimto this time or something like that, Andy? I think there was. So, but yeah, big shout out to Dave from Double Trouble, and I look forward to chatting to him again when he's next on.
And the great thing about that was as well, wasn't it, that idea that they did, hopefully it's a successful idea to raise
let's hope so.
Yeah.
Because it came from the minds of Tallboy Radio, and everybody who's seen it on social media and everybody who signed up to their newsletter, it says on there, Tallboy Radio gets a mention. So that's great for the podcast as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Andy, you got any of those?
Yeah, it's just echoing you guys with Bill and Dave at Double Trouble. I was hoping when he messaged me about filling out a survey and said no Vimto, I was thinking, if he's got a Vimto range coming out, but no, he wasn't. don't mix it. But no, thanks to Bill and all that as well, just for the unofficial PR guy, and just everyone involved. Well done. Cheers.
Cool. Ken?
Well, as a relative newcomer to this sort, I think I'm probably the first person I say thank you to is my fiance Sam for pushing me to actually do this and actually get out of my comfort zone a bit. I said to the guys at work, I'd give them a shout out. So to all the guys at Pour Moi Lingerie in Macclesfield, hey, how you doing? And thanks to you guys for welcoming me on board and letting me just be myself for thousands and thousands of people every few weeks. So thank you very much indeed, guys. Appreciate it.
Top man. Sid, do you want to say hello to anybody?
I'm not prepared anything though. So basically, thanks for inviting me on. I really enjoyed the Nexus one that I did. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Listened to the majority of them, not all of them, if I'm honest, through time, what have you. But I think what you're doing is great, and it seems to be taking off and strength to strength. So well done, guys. Brilliant.
Top man. Cheers for that, Sid. And just before we get underway, we do have a giveaway as well. So come into possession of a rather charming garment that we're going to be giving away. Basically, a couple of months ago, I ordered myself a shirt from Dixon Flannel called a Glory, which I am wearing now. Now, this is actually the replacement because mine went missing in the post. I emailed him, and to be honest, Dixon Flannel, if you ever used them, are a fantastic company, and no questions out. They clicked on the link, checked it hadn't arrived after a month, and just sent me out a new one, which arrived a week later. However, a couple of weeks after that, another one turned up, and so I was honest. I got back in touch and said, look, I'm going to have to pay to get the excise duties paid on it anyway to go and pick it up and send it back to you. Can I pay for the shirts and we can give it away? And they said, no, just have it, give it away. You've been messed enough around here. So, they're giving away one of these shirts. And,
very nice.
If you're not familiar with Dixon Flannel, they market themselves as the quality flannel product that you can buy on the market. Gaz, you're a glasses wearer.
I am.
When you're wearing a shirt, what's the most frustrating thing? What do you do to clean your glasses?
I'm doing the shirt.
Exactly, and look at this on the inside of there.
Oh, look at that.
You don't get that on just any ordinary shirt.
They think of everything, don't they?
Exactly, for cleaning your glasses. So, we've got one of these brand new in the packet to give away. If you're watching us on YouTube, check it out. If not, Google Dixon Flannel and look up Glory. I think there are a few available left to buy, but they will be in short supply. Retail for around about $50, so it's a decent thing to be giving away. So all you have to do is drop us an email, tbrpodcast@hotmail.com, and tell us why you deserve a free Dixon Flannel. It is size XL. We can't do anything about that. I am on the large side. So that's where we are. So yeah, get in touch, let us know about that. Now, we're talking about XLs, but tonight we're talking about mediums.
Hey, I like what you've done there.
Honestly,
I like
bulletproof, mate. Bulletproof.
We'll take that. So, mediums, not in terms of the shirt, obviously. We did an episode about parapsychology, I think 5-6 weeks ago now, and it proved to be incredibly popular. Actually, I think it's our third most popular episode that we've done. A lot of people got in touch with us. A lot of people engaged with us. We had listeners sending us pictures from Texas as well. We had a picture of the shadow people that his ex-partner had taken a picture, which is quite peculiar, quite unusual to see. So we wanted to revisit that. Obviously, the pandemic as it is, we're not in a position to be investigating the old Holden sandbags, and plus we haven't actually spoken to him about it yet. But that will be happening at some point in the future. We're going to do a few more episodes on parapsychology. The first of those being tonight, when we're going to be talking about mediums. Now, the way we always start these things off then is just to say any personal experience that we have of mediums. So who wants to get going first?
I'll jump in first because I haven't ever been to a medium. And I'm intrigued to know sort of what other people's thoughts are. I obviously have my own sort of thoughts on mediums, which I will go into later in the podcast. But in terms of personal experience, no. Never sort of felt as though I needed to go and speak to one, see one. I do know that one of my sort of family members visits a medium, and I obviously won't speak about that because I think that would be unfair. But I do know that I do have a family member that goes and visits them quite regularly, visits the same one quite regularly, and puts quite a lot of faith in what the medium has to say. So in terms of my personal experience, that's about it. So, but I'm intrigued to know what other people's thoughts are. And like I say, a bit later on, I'll give you my thoughts on mediums sort of across the board.
Great stuff. Andy, I've got a feeling I know the answer to this.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen them. I've seen them on TV, obviously. I've seen a few YouTube channels where they like debunk them and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's like it's not something I can disprove or prove or that. So I'll be interested to see like what if any of you guys have seen them and it rings true with you or not. But yeah, I'll just leave it as that for now.
Ken?
Yeah, I guess. Well, we went to a friend of Sam and I's. Her son died, committed suicide, and it crushed her. So there was a medium called David Trainer, who's actually been on a lot of TV shows over here. So we went to see him, and it was. I went in there. I'll be honest. I went in there as a skeptic. I'm just like I'm fully believing the paranormal side of it, but somebody talking to other people from the other side seems unlikely to me. So, and I know it's juxtaposed to what I believe in, but I went in there with an open mind. But it's like, really, all right, fine, whatever. And by the end of the event. It appears, and during the advert break, I'll try and dig out the picture that he drew. But it appears that my dad had appeared, and and Sam's made some notes from what he actually said with regards to a new start, a fresh start, something in Manchester which didn't make any sense. But there was other bits and pieces which seemed to have hit home. Now I think some of them are very scattergun. They try and cover. Does anybody know somebody with the name A? B? No, I think it's and they do that.
Yeah.
Very, very scattergun, and you're going to bump into someone who does that, who obviously knows somebody like that. But I think it was a very interesting experience, especially if he was communicating with my dad at the time. The woman he was speaking to, who was there, we were there with, he was speaking to her, and he. And basically, because you sat there and you have a microphone, and he talks to you, and you talk to him, and basically it's a yes or no answer session. So I was sat there and I was just like, wow, this is cool. she's getting what you want. And then he said, oh, and can you pass the microphone to the guy to the right? And it was just like, that's me. And I was just like, hi, David. I was just like really just like friendly with him, and but it was an interesting event. If it, as I say, if it was my dad coming through, then yes, I guess at some point my dad's communicated. I'd say during the break, I'll try and dig out the picture that he drew of my dad, and then Sam made some notes on the event, so I'll try and dig those out in the break.
Cool. Nice one. And Sid, now this is something that I know you're interested in, because after you listened to the parapsychology episode, you messaged us about mediums and actually said, it'd be interesting to do one on, which is why you're here to talk about it.
Yep. So yeah, I've actually, like Ken, had experience in it a couple of times. First time was I was probably around about 17, 18, and an ex-girlfriend of mine unfortunately lost her 11-year-old brother, probably around about 6 months prior to me starting going out with her. So her mother and father basically wanted to delve deeper, basically, so to speak, and started getting into the mediums and spiritualism and all this. So anyway, one night they turned around and says, oh, we're going to a spiritualist church locally in Stoke-on-Trent, and they said, do you want to come? So we were like, okay, yeah, So we ended up going. Packed. We didn't have microphones like Ken did, but it was a guy at the front, and he was just projecting his voice. And a few things happened, speaking to other people, and just like Ken, all of a sudden he turned around and says, I want to speak to you, that person at the back. So naturally I go like this.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he says, no, you. He said, and I went, me? Yeah, you. I'm like, right, okay. And then he just went on to basically says, I've got a name. The name John, Jerry, John. So anyway, so basically we kind of nailed it down to, unfortunately, when I was a young boy, when I was 11, last year of primary school, going into first year of high school, during the summer break, I lost one of my best friends through a freak accident, basically, and his name was Jonathan. Never, and it's one of those that even now the hairs on my arm are going. Never met the guy before, as in obviously the spiritualist guy. Never met him before, and I just thought to myself after, how on earth could he know that?
Yeah.
So it got me thinking as well. So we didn't really get much more after that. Then we go home, and then on other occasions, probably 3. I mean, this was over a period of, crikey, 8 months, a year, something like that. So there's another time. Obviously, my ex-girlfriend's parents were really into it. So they were going on these conventions quite often and go around people's houses, who was a local medium. And in a nutshell, I'll try and keep it brief. You basically, you have the Merlin music on, the meditation music.
Merlin music, I love that.
Merlin music. And basically, you go into, there's somebody leading the circle, if you like, and I think there was 4 or 5 of us at the time doing it. And they take you through weird things, to be honest, like self-healing, making sure no bad spirits come, things like that. And it was really bizarre to actually be part of. But I do say this on two occasions, it was, again, absolutely mind-blowing. It really was. The second time that stuck in my mind, the first time that sticks in my mind was we were talking, and you got your eyes, and basically they say, whatever comes into your head, remember it. Don't just dismiss it as, that's codswaddle, just go with it.
Yep.
So this time I got this guy, no name, really old guy, and I close my eyes and I can see it as plain as day. Old guy. He wore a bowler hat. You know, we're talking quite old, early 1900s maybe, something like that. And he was playing football in a field, like a cornfield or something like that, with 4 or 5 young kids against like a dry stone wall, and there was a row of terrace houses behind this dry stone wall, and I'm looking at this from a diagonal perspective, so I can see the wall, the terrace houses, and there's a train track running that way, and that's all I went with. That's all I got. Anyway, we come out of the circle, so to speak, with the Merlin music and this and that, and you know, you feel very relaxed. If I'm honest, it's like sometimes you could probably go to sleep, but and then you know they turn around and they say, okay, they go around, right, what did you get? And anyway, I turned around and said, well, I got this guy, what I've just explained to you, and that's all I got. Sometimes you could get 2 or 3, but that's all I got. I didn't go with anything else. And this one person turned around and said, "You just described my granddad down to a T." So she said he used to play football with young kids against a dry stone wall, and there's a train track running alongside. And again, it was just like, wow. How do you know that?
Yeah, it's quite peculiar.
Thanks for sharing that. That's an incredible experience.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So, how your brother?
Honest to God. And there's other people who turn around. I've spoken to this family member that Gary was talking about, and I've actually seen the medium that they, not actually to go to myself, but seeing them actually out and with this family member. And people turn around and say, I think the word's receptive. You're receptive to the medium side of it. And somebody turned around and said, I was very receptive to it. You know, I don't, you know, try or what have you, but and that's what they said. And then there's a second time. So this was the last time. It's only happened a couple of times, but the second time again, it was bizarre. We went through the Merlin music, won't bore you all again. And we were in a circle, and I saw this young girl wearing a flowery dress, and I think I said she was probably about 8 to 9 years old, and I said I think her name was Kay or Katie or Catherine or something like that. Anyway, very long story short, you come out and there was happened to be 3 other people about the same girl.
Wow!
So crazy on that same time. So yeah, so that was, you know, as I say, I talk about it and like your hairs on my back and my neck, you know, they just go on end. It's crazy. But there's been other things, and listen to the first one you did, Parapsychology and all that, and there's other things that, like I remember Gary turning around saying, you know, he could swear he saw mum at the bottom of the bed, etc.
Yeah.
But just to kind of digressing from the medium side with this, the first time with this ex-girlfriend, we were upstairs actually. It was in our old house as a family home where myself, Gary, mum and dad lived, and we had a dog, Winston.
Yeah, Winston, love Winston. Winston's ace.
Man.
And everybody was out. Gaz was out, mum and dad were out, and we were just, myself and the ex-girlfriend were just laying on the bed, and we heard, no word of a lie, we heard footsteps coming up the stairs like that, and it wasn't dog footsteps, it wasn't 4 legs, it was 2 legs.
Wow.
And I turned around and said, can you hear that? And she said, yeah. So like we do, pull the covers over her head like this.
It's gonna go away.
Yeah, gonna go away. Yeah. Well, then we got this. We both got this strange feeling that somebody put their head through the door, looked to see who was there, and as you can imagine, we kind of shit it, unfortunately. Yes. So yeah, absolutely. So anyway, after about 5 or 10 minutes, I went out, opened the door gingerly, and went into my mum and dad's room. And Winston, the dog, was on the bed, and he ripped a pillow, chewing a hanger, and his tail's going 10 to the dozen. And they say dogs are very receptive and have you said.
Yeah.
So that was another thing in our old house. But yeah, that was obviously not medium. But yeah, so that was it.
So that house, though, was a very old house. It was one of the earlier houses in Osage, wasn't it? You know, it was well over. Well, it was 1800s. It was 1892, was it? Yeah. So, yeah, so it was old house. Old house.
Yeah. So I didn't know the story, and I know the friend that Sid was talking about. And as soon as you started to talk about that story, I sort of knew which friend he was sort of going on about. I generally didn't know, Sid, that you'd sort of you'd had that experience or whatever. So in terms of you being a receptor or receptive or whatever, do you feel as though, so in what environment do you feel as though you need to be in order to be receptive to these people, whatever they are, these voices, if for what, but is it, do you feel as though you have to be in the presence of another medium and therefore it then sort of channels through you, or do you feel as though it could happen to you, you know, in a crowd of people or on your own, or what sort of...
To be honest, I don't know. And for one, I don't think I'm obviously like that at all. But this is just what, not a load, just a couple of people have said.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. Sometimes do you ever remember when you say it's deja vu, or it's your subconscious brain? You say something and it happens, or something like that. And there's been instances that's happened loads of times, and then so I don't know, to be honest, guys. I wouldn't know. It's just, as I said, I've not had anything like that for years now. You know,
right.
Whether or not you kind of do it, and then you progressively do more, and I really wouldn't know. Yeah. But it was a very good occasion, really. So.
Yeah, I mean, I do have one experience myself that I'm going to share with you, which obviously dates back to when I was much younger. Now, much like Gaz, much like Andy, I've never been to see a psychic, but I've got an incident I recall from when I was a young lad, maybe, I don't know, early teens, perhaps, maybe a little bit younger. I'd gone dashing upstairs, seen what my brother was doing, and he was on one of his regular rooting around underneath my mum's bed to see what he could find. And I saw him sat there kneeling on the floor with a letter in his hand, and there was something in me that it triggered because I was deathly afraid of this letter. I don't know whether it was the expression on John's face at the time, but there was something about that made me uncomfortable. And I can remember sort of screaming at him, like, "What is that, John? What is that? What are you looking at? What have you got in your hand?" And he's like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And to touch it, it made me feel very uncomfortable. Wow. And when we went and asked my mum about it, obviously after she'd finished giving us a good old bollocking for rooting under the bed,
obviously,
she told us what it was. And my granddad passed away of cancer, and he was quite young. He was only in his early 50s. And my mum, to help her deal with it, had been to see a medium.
Right.
And this medium had said that she'd been in touch with it. And as she's written this letter, it was like a psychic writing. She was holding the pen. The pen was literally pressed against the hand as she was moving. Mum just remembers it distinctly watching it. She was not holding the pen. She was just touching it, and the pen was moving around. Geez. And it was him describing his experience of being on the other side. And I know we talk about goosebumps now. If I had any hairs on my head, they'd be standing up. Yeah. But I can remember that feeling to this day of terror and not knowing why I was afraid. Now, do I believe in mediums? Well, certainly there's enough people, and there's evidence out there to suggest that it works. And certainly from what Sid says, he is more receptive than others, as people may or may not be.
It's strange because I sound a bit like Kenn, really, in as much as whilst, and obviously in one of the other episodes we discussed our sort of experiences of sort of the paranormal, and whilst and this is where I think I'm pretty much the same as Kenn, whilst I believe in that, and we talked about the continuum, maybe Andy was on one side and Kenn was on the other side, and I think me and Andy were sort of somewhere in between.
Yeah. And
I was leaning more towards Kenn being a believer as such. I worry that some mediums, and whether or not it's just the media portrayal of them or not, some mediums they prey on the vulnerable, they prey on the weak, and they throw very open questions. And it goes back to what Kenn said about, has anybody got a relative called Frank, or could be Francis, or and it's very open, and you will get somebody that latches on. And I wonder whether or not that's because they want to believe, and it's almost like it's like they're very good at picking up physical cues from the audience. They're very good at reading body language. They're very good at reading sort of verbal cues and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit skeptical, and what I can't help but think is, and I think I'm going very much down the route of similar to the Ouija board, in as much as I'm a bit afraid of actually what they might say.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm a bit afraid of actually what happens if the medium is there and actually, I don't know, there's a spirit that gets channeled through them, and actually the receptor, whoever it is in the audience, the person who it relates to, actually doesn't want to hear that. And I don't know enough about, do they vet the questions? Do they screen the questions? Or is it just completely live and therefore you could get quite nasty things being said? Or do you know what I mean? So I'm very much whilst I probably do think there's something, because again, like Adam said, there's so much evidence to suggest there's something that you'd like to think that there probably is.
Yeah.
I worry about, from a personal point of view, going to mediums in case perhaps I find out something or learn something that actually I don't want to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
I agree with it, and as I said, I believe that there's something there, but like you're saying, what exactly it is, I don't know. But having experienced it firsthand with the describing somebody's grandfather and the girl, then it absolutely blew my mind. It really did. So obviously, I'm thinking there's definitely something there. But as guys do they prey on the yeah, I'm sure they do. You know, I'm sure they do. But there's definitely something there. Definitely.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the Barnum effect?
No.
P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
You've heard of P.T.
Barnum, yeah.
Well, he said,
Great Showman.
That's the one. People tend to accept vague general personality descriptions as uniquely applicable to them.
Yeah.
And that's how he described mediums, and that was his opinion on them.
Yeah. That sort of makes sense to what I was sort of saying, in as much as they're quite vague, but if you know somebody that sort of meets that vague description, you latch on to that. Well, that must be my Uncle Frank. Yeah. That must be him he's talking about. And actually, it isn't. It's just a vague. You know, he's this high. He had sort of curly hair. He wore glasses. Oh, that must be my Uncle Frank. And actually, when you talk about it in reality, there's millions of people that are short with curly hair that wear glasses, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. And I suppose it ties in with that. I mean, I hadn't heard that quite, and that actually sort of makes sense to me.
Yeah. So, as far as the people on this podcast, then, so what are we, about 20, 40, 60% of us have visited a medium, 40% of us haven't. Is that right? No, it's the other way around. 60% haven't, 40%. So what percentage of Britons, then, according to a YouGov poll, do you suppose has visited?
5%.
5%. See, I would have gone that low, 5%. Actually, 23.
I would obviously higher than that.
About
1 in 5.
Yeah. Or near 1 in 4.
1 in 4. Wow.
I think it goes back to the same things as we said in the Parapsychology and Paranormal podcast. It's just like people want answers.
Yeah.
That they can't they can't get in the living space anymor. So they have to. They get it. They will do it. That's like I say, it's very niche. They won't talk about it because it's like, it's a bit weird. But people still want answers, and it doesn't. And it could be Greta down the road, or it could be the businessman who's doing it. But everybody wants to know answers. Is there something? People don't want to accept, I think, that when it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
They want to know. They want to believe that there's something. There's got to be something more. It can't just be. It can't just be this.
Yeah.
And it's the same as like Andy said in that in the parapsychology one. It's just like it's energy. It's an energy. It's an energy form. Now, if people will admit, if 23% of people who took the survey will admit they've been to one, I think the number that's probably higher. because there'll be people who won't admit to going.
That's very true. That's very true.
And it's weird because it goes back to what you were saying, Ken, in the previous one and this one about it almost being a little bit of a taboo subject, and people don't want to admit to seeing a medium, going to see a psychic, experiencing the paranormal, because actually it is a little bit taboo. And I think, you know, in a number of years, in however many decades, it becomes slightly less of a taboo. You're probably going to get more people saying, well, actually, I have experienced this, but I didn't really want to tell anybody back in the day because, you know, it shocked me actually that it was that high. Genuinely, it shocked me that it was that high. Sort of 1 in 3, well, 1 in 4, 1 in 5. Wow. Okay. I genuinely didn't expect it to be that high.
You can assume that it became something regarding mediums became popular because they were on British morning TV.
Yeah.
And then all of us, and then whether people admit it or not, everybody's heard of Most Haunted.
Yeah.
Everybody. And people say, you could talk to people now and they'll be just like, oh, Most Haunted. But talk to them then, it's like, Most Haunted, UK living, no chance, mate.
Yeah.
What's that? Utter garbage, mate. Not watching that. Now, if you go back to it, say, oh, so you remember about UK, about Most Haunted? Oh, yeah. Dokakura was amazing. God rest him. But it was amazing. And it was awesome. People won't admit to it initially, but eventually, as it becomes more acceptable, people will be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I did. Yeah. And it was quite kind of good. 23%, I think, is low ball, is a low ball figure. Definitely.
Interesting.
For me.
57% of those that did visit actually came away, felt that it was truthful, and what they've been told was true. That's quite interesting as well. So Sid's gone in as a skeptic, and has not, been convinced by what he's seen. Ken, very similar. You guys both you both visited one.
Yeah.
Both gone in thinking, this is probably a little bit fictitious.
Yeah.
But come out thinking, actually, I've seen some things there that don't quite add up.
Yeah.
Can I ask it with Sid? Is there any point during your experience that you actually didn't believe what was being shown to you or what you were being told? Did you just take it as read?
Yeah. As I say, it was you go through the things that you do, and you have these things, and you obviously got your eyes closed, and you have these things that you think you're seeing in your brain, or hearing, and you just think, it's just like me closing my eyes now saying, oh, it's jam, and it's literally, that's what you think. And this is what they're saying, don't throw them away, if you're not this is what they said to us, don't throw them away. If you just get something, go with it. And it might be nothing, or it might not be anything that people know in that group that you're in.
So how many people were there then? So in the group that when you went, how many people were there then?
He's frozen. He's frozen. So just I'll chuck out some more statistics then. Well, hopefully he unfreezes himself. So in terms of people who believe,
he's back.
He's back. So go on, Sid. I'll throw out. I was just going to chuck out some statistics there. We lost you for a second. So go back to saying what you said, and I'll give you the stats.
Yeah. So the first time there was probably about 5 people there, and then the second time similar, 5, 6, 7 people. But with out of those, I can't remember. I think it's probably 6, to be honest. So out of that 6 people that were there, 3 of them got the same KTK or girl that came into my brain in the same circle. They could turn around and say they could say that just to say, I got them, and they might not, but
but it goes back to what something Gaz said in the parapsychology episode. It's a case of if one person says it, then you're just like, oh, what a weirdo. But if 2, 3 people have the same experience and the same either name or vision, or I'm going to say vision, but the same sort of experience, then it sort of gains traction and doesn't seem so weird after all. So I think it's fantastic you've had an experience where more than one person, more than yourself, has experienced the same thing, and that kind of gives it credibility.
I was just going to say, I think that lends a little bit gravitas to it, doesn't it? In as much as it's not just one person that's gone, because you'd be like, whatever, but actually multiple people have had the same channeling experience, if that's the right phrase, and effectively have got to the same outcome. Everybody has said, or not everybody, but there are multiple people that have come out with the same individual with the same characteristics or whatever it may be.
There was 50% in that circle that came out with the same thing. Just to put 3 numbers out there, Ad. So.
Cheers, dude. Leads us in nicely to the statistics. Thank you. So, when we talk about belief, right? Then, so the same YouGov poll, 14% believe in a psychic ability. That's 14% of Britons who were interviewed in this YouGov poll. 24% said they did not believe in the ability, and actually a further 34% went on to say that they were fraudulent and actually quite dangerous.
Right.
You lend yourself to your concerns about
it. What did they believe? That's 28% of people who were just like.
Well, I guess there's 28% of people who are on the fence. Then it's fair to say. So it's clearly it's a divisive topic. And again, it goes back to what we discussed in the parapsychology episode. A lot of it goes down to belief. Now, the interesting thing about that is, for me, is that Sid's gone in not really believing, but turns out to be quite receptive.
Yeah.
Which you would say would. Yeah. You wouldn't expect that. Which
is weird, because I think it goes back to sort of what me and Kenn were saying in the previous podcast, in terms of, you will get some people that perhaps they want to believe and they do believe, and therefore are they more susceptible to seeing things. And we sort of made a joke about if we did go into Macclesfield and me and Kenn heard somebody saw something, we'd be like, no way, do you see that? And actually Andy'd be like, dude, it's a curtain flapping, just whack type thing.
Yeah, I'm just about to say, do you know what I mean? Honest, it is your senses heightened, so to speak, in that time, because obviously the old house that we used to visit many moons ago, you know what I'm saying? We all thought that there was something going on in there.
Yeah. And I suppose that there is that, and it's not quite the fight or flight, but there is that, the anticipation, the adrenaline, the not understanding, the not knowing. It's the sense of, and you're right, Sid, and it was a weird old house, and obviously there was no real sort of paranormal activity, for want of a better phrase. But whenever we went there, it's basically and is it like an old abandoned house, and it's in a field, and we used to go there and basically just as lads just mess about sort of thing. But it was weird because like the dimensions of the house didn't quite fit. So on the outside it looked huge, but then when you looked in, it was like it's tiny. And we were like, hey, how does that work? And we subsequently found that actually we think it was like 2 houses that had been knocked into one. But on the inside, part of it was still 2 houses. So like you went up to the top floor, and we didn't actually venture up to the top floor, really. I think we only went up once because we were so scared of it.
It was a very unsafe house as well.
Yeah, it was
really unsafe and dangerous. But when you went across, and actually the balcony on the first floor inside to the landing was like a double width. So it is like almost like a double width. And then when you went downstairs, it was like a wall, and you were like, oh, well, was that wall built?
It wasn't joined at the bottom, but it was joined at the top.
Yeah, it was weird.
Obviously, I never went in there. These 2 guys could admit to breaking and entering all their life. Nothing to do with me.
Absolutely. Shocking.
Well, I mean, just to go on the heightened senses again, what alluded to before, when you're in that kind of frame of mind is, it was in a farmer's field. We knew obviously one of the road that would to it was on the left, let's say, as you're looking. But we saw a light, didn't we?
Yeah.
Coming towards us, getting brighter and brighter. So what do? Turn around and legged it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Because your senses are just like, well, what's that? What is it?
Yeah.
And I think you do read. I think perhaps you can read more things if you are in that environment and you are that heightened sense. But in a way, I suppose when you go, and I haven't ever been, so I'm making an assumption, is that when you go to a medium's, whether or not it's a group one where there is an audience or whatever, or it's just a one-to-one, I assume that they will set the scene in as much as they will heighten your senses. As you said, Sid, in terms of, do they play music? Do they dim the lighting? Is there some sort of ambient atmosphere? Do they chill the temperature or whatever of the room? Do they change the atmospherics or whatever it may be? So, and I wonder whether or not they do that just to make you not on edge, but make you in a slightly different state than is your norm. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I think, and Kenn made a great point in the last podcast about Ouija boards, and he couldn't really cast dispersions on it without doing it.
Yeah.
I would be more open to visiting a medium, I think, if it was a group setting, because I would feel as though maybe there's less chance of it affecting me. Whereas I think if I went one-to-one, it's me, isn't it? Does that make sense?
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Here's what. Sorry, go on.
No, go on, man. So it's fine, Gary.
I was just going to jump on something that Gaz said there about doing it as a group, and it brings me back to what we discussed in the last episode when we were going to investigate something further. Is there something else that we could investigate further? How comfortable would we be, the 5 of us sat around a table with a medium? Andy, what are your thoughts on that?
I can guess now. Can I guess?
Well, I had a few things going through my head, but then what I picked up on was what Gaz said earlier. Is like, do you want to know what they actually say? And I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to the Ouija board type thing. In as much as I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got if I was to be told something either about them or about one of my wife, Jenny's sort of family or something, that if there was something that was there that I didn't want to know, and I don't know whether the mediums are trained is the wrong word, I suppose, I don't know. Do they filter out bad news, and do you only receive stuff that you might interpret to be positive, or I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think from what I can remember, when I went to the spiritualist church, there was when you said setting the scene, for the life of me I can't remember. We're talking, 20 how many years ago, 25 years ago, 27 years ago. I can't remember whether they dim the lights, etc. What you're saying, I can't remember, but I'm certain there was no doom, so to speak. It was he turned around and he speaks to somebody. I've got your gran Betty here, or something like that. She turns around and says, "Don't worry, everything will be all right," so to speak.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything nasty or anything like that, from what I can remember.
And it does make you wonder whether or not the mediums or whoever it is that run them, the psychics, whether they do act as a filter, and it's only really the positive stuff. And actually, my nan passed away, she's fine, she's okay, or whatever. My mum passed away, she's fine, she's okay, that sort of thing. There's just that nagging thought. I'll be absolutely honest with you, not as much as a Ouija board, because I suppose whether it's the media hype or the films or whatever that talk about Ouija board in a negative way, I don't really see there's as many negative stories about mediums or psychics.
Well, true that, but again, also when you're saying you're more put off by the idea of doing a Ouija board, and you're talking about a medium being a filter, without the Ouija board doesn't have that filter.
And that is an excellent point. And I wonder whether if you went to the mediums, effectively, they sign a contract to say when you become a medium, you'll filter out all potential bad news. And it's that type of will they filter out? So actually, probably doesn't need to know this, so I'm not gonna. And that's and I don't know how live the session is. Is the medium taken over? Are they just a channel or a vessel for that spirit, voice, whatever it is? I don't know enough, I suppose, to cast judgment on those people that have seen it. Because like I say, I know that this family member has visited mediums and puts quite a lot of faith in what this medium says. So, I think that for me would be let's play that by ear and let me think about it. But I would be more open.
Yeah.
And I think more positive about actually going to see medium as a group than A, go as an individual, and B, do a Ouija board as a group. I think.
I'm fully on board with Gaz on this one. I think Ouija boards for me there's just something about them that is inherently negative, sinister. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, it's a brilliant description of them. And a medium is, I think it's because the difference is that a Ouija board is an inanimate object.
Yeah.
a medium is another human being.
Yeah.
So you have that. You already have that sort of like connection going on. With
Yeah.
regards to the experience in being there, David Traynor, for all his worth, is a very, very good entertainer.
Yeah.
He gives you the information in a calm way. His setup is literally has what looks to be just a cutout on stage, and he just goes across and talks to it, and then he gets something through, and then but there are people who were there who were genuinely, who got very upset and got a lot from it, because if you go to a medium, you know what you're getting and you know what you're going for.
Yeah.
So if you get singled out and you get something out of it, and something that's so specific to them, then there were a bunch of people there, or certainly who got very upset, very teary. Most of the men who were there were just like, right.
Yeah,
that's what. But the women were there. Who were there? We have mother-daughter there, and I remember them sitting. They were down below us to the left, and they got thing, and they were just in floods of tears afterwards, because it was so relevant to them. So I'd be much, as I said, I agree with Gaz. I would be much happier doing a medium than I would be doing a Ouija board. But you can't have one without the other. So I'm guessing if we're going to do one, then we should, by rights, as a science experiment, do both.
But it's interesting what you said there, though, Ken, about if you go to a medium, you know why you're going. You know, you're going to a medium because you might have somebody in your personal life that perhaps has passed on, or a friend or family member or whatever that you want to have a connection with. I don't think, because the mediums are so personal, you know, you might go and speak to them in a group, but if that medium then channels a spirit or whatever it may be and starts talking to you, Ken, that's very personal to you. I can't feel that. So I won't go to a medium just to see other people's reactions. I would go to a medium because I would want something for me.
That's it, yeah.
And that's a great point that you made, is that actually if you are going to go to them, you sort of know why you're going to them.
Yeah.
Whereas I think maybe the flip side is the Ouija board is you actually don't really know what's coming, if you know what I mean. I don't know.
Yeah.
Based on what you've just said there, and based on what Ken's also just said, well, is the real question, does it matter if it's genuine? Because you're going with something in mind, you're looking for peace of mind, you're looking some kind of solace. Does it really matter if it's genuine, or if it helps?
It's a very good point.
It's a great point. And I think, and I suppose in a way we come back full circle to what I said 20 minutes ago, whatever it was, half an hour ago. If it doesn't matter, that's the worry in terms of people being preyed upon and being very, and the vulnerable, and people that go there are quite vulnerable, and they might be told what they want to hear, or they might hear what they want to hear, and actually it's not real, and they're getting in effect false hope or whatever. But if that's what they want, and they then get some sort of solace from that, then fine. And if that works for them, then fine. But I can't help get out of my mind that, you know, the picture of the medium, you know, rubbing their hands together, saying thanks very much and crossing my palm with silver sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So, but it's a great point. If you know why you want to go and what you're looking to get out of it, and you leave with that, do you care whether it's real or not? I don't know. It's just a great point.
And I said the majority of people that go to mediums are the ones that want closure, or they want some comfort in, you know, knowing that they're whoever's, you know, passed away or whatever, is safe or whatever. The medium's not going to turn around and say, you know, Bob here saying it's really hot and you'll enjoy it and stuff. just to make it a bit of light humour. But, you know, so I think they will filter and stuff like that, going back to that point. But I think most people just want the comfort of, you know, this person's happy, they're enjoying themselves. And whereas the Ouija board, every time you picture it, you think horror film or...
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying about is it the media portrayal? Is it the films that you see? Is it the perception of a Ouija board? Do you know what I mean? I mean, if there was I don't know whether there is one out there. Listeners, if you know of one, let me know, of a medium that all of a sudden jumps into a crowd and starts stabbing people because he's been possessed by or an evil spirit or whatever. Whereas actually there's quite a lot of stories about the Ouija board happening in that way. Do you know what I mean?
I can't think of one.
And it's whether or not the medium or psychic is portrayed as being actually quite sort of positive, and they're always, your little granny is doing fine and she's looking down on you and she says hello and everything will be all okay and all. And actually, the flip side is the Ouija board is like, oh my God, we're going to unleash an evil spirit that's going to.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? So I wonder whether it is the portrayal of those two things, and I don't know whether that's back in history. I don't know whether for centuries the Ouija and I don't know. I don't know whether we discussed was it the birth of the Ouija board and how it came into existence. I don't know whether we did.
It was a game.
Parlor game.
Yeah.
Just take this down a different angle. We're getting towards the hour mark, but I'm going to take this down a different route that we haven't explored yet. What about psychics then that assist the police?
Do you know what? In a very, very odd twist, I was literally just thinking about mediums who literally help and are portrayed as good and help police to. Yeah, mate.
Well, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something because there's a program that's on Sky. It's probably on Living or something that Ken mentioned before, and it's called Medium, and it's about a woman who. I don't know. I'm not. To be honest, I've never watched it.
I've seen it advertised.
I've heard of it, but I've never
seen it
watched
advertised. Yeah, I have.
And she helps the police with this, and so I was going to say that as well. So that's kind of bizarre.
Cool. I've got a case study.
I'm sure Randy was thinking the same.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen that show.
Have you?
I could
looking for your reaction. I can tell.
Yeah, I know.
I bet you're actually googling Clinton Baptiste in Phoenix Nights. Weren't you? I've got a case study there. I'm just going to quickly chuck it out here. These are the basic facts of the case. So 9th of June 1987 in Louisiana, 27-year-old Andre Daigle, I apologise if I'm pronouncing his surname wrong, been out drinking with his buddies and he went missing. His sister, Elise Daigle McKinley, contacted a psychic by the name of Rosemary Kerr, who actually later gave evidence in court because it was down to her that ultimately this case got solved. Now, when she was shown a picture, I think she lived in LA, and obviously LA to Louisiana, fair old distance. Yeah. She was shown a photograph of this gentleman, and she got a searing pain in her head and said, this guy's experienced this same pain, and then went on to say where they thought they would find the body. So brother and sister went down looking for the other brother. Didn't find the body on the first visit. They took the police in tow, but while they were searching, came across his car being driven by two individuals. The police pulled them over, and they later confessed to killing him on the basis they wanted to know if they could do it. It was a robbery, and then they wanted to know, took it one step further, whether they could actually kill somebody. And the body was found not far from where this lady was said to have said it would be found. And as the two guys admitted, they beat him to death in the head with a claw hammer.
Wow.
And his, to the point that that's his skull was smashed in. So, I mean, that's very unusual, isn't it? This lady then went and gave court. And if you read the different, go out, Google the case, please, and just read the different news articles, because you can tell by the different papers as to whether that journalist buys into the idea of mediums or not. Some are very skeptic and barely mention it. Some are a lot more open-minded and talk about it a lot. So
if you do that sort of thing, how is that? That's no different if she has a site, which is obviously what you say about psychic abilities and people not very many believing. Is it 14% believed in a psychic ability?
Yeah.
Is it like if they're able to do that, then if they can do that, doesn't that make people who can remote view? Does that not make them more credible as well?
It's a very good question. Yeah, it's a very good question.
So if people can remote view with the remote viewing thing is a very interesting take on being psychic or being able to reach out and do that.
But so if you're remote viewing, can you then throw in there pre and post cognition? So could you throw in there, was that so the woman being a psychic, is she just post cognition? Is she seeing something that's already happened, or is that pre-cognition?
Post.
Because pre is when you see something before it happens.
Yeah.
So therefore she'll be suffering from post-cognition because she's felt or seen something that's already happened.
Yeah.
So you could throw in there the remote viewing, you could throw in there pre and post-cognition.
Yeah. She's living the moment, isn't she? And
all of those,
and that can't be a very healthy way to live if you have that. If she was doing that and she lived that moment, and that if you are living somebody else's final moments, in your own head, then that's got to be a pretty horrible way to.
So here's a quick question.
Live.
If and I genuinely don't know the answer, and I don't think any of you will because you're not psychic. If you are, well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, joking aside, I mean, obviously, Sid's had a couple of occasions where he perhaps has seen something, received something.
I'm not a psychic, dude.
No, but you
might have a spidey sense every now and again.
But joking aside, though, you out of the five of us are the one perhaps that has had most sort of experience of it. Can you, if you are psychic or a medium of it, do you turn on and turn off when you receive them? Do you? So when as a medium, as soon as you, and this is going to sound horrible, as soon as you go into your room, your booth, whatever it is that you do your medium readings in, do you then become attuned to that, or are you attuned all the time?
It's a good question.
Can you pick and choose when you hear the voices, and can you pick and choose in what environment you are? Do you hear voices when you're sitting on a train going to work, or you're driving when you're going to work, or is it only when you're in your booth with somebody sitting on the other side of the table? I don't know.
Mean, possibly there's a bit of both in that. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. They're not just throwing out. And please, if there are any mediums out there that want to get in touch with us,
we'll have them on the show.
By all means, come on and if there's anything that we've said that isn't accurate, or you'd like to come on and discuss what it is that you do, please get in touch with us. Tallboy Radio, all the social medias, and we'd love to have you on.
Absolutely, that'd be an amazing show.
It would be amazing. So if there is anybody out there, please get in touch. And hey, we'll get you on.
I wonder, just off the top of my head, I wonder if it's like with the psychic side and the medium side of it and stuff like that. Obviously there are people who class themselves as empaths.
Yeah.
Empathic people who feel other people's feelings. And I think that comes back to where we were saying in the paranormal one, with regards to energy, like Andy said. With regards to that, it's just like people can either see auras around people, or immediately meet them and know how they're feeling, or can see how they're feeling. If is that something? If you have this gift, Sid, is that something that you are aware of, or more aware, or less aware of, or is it just something that's never? Do you find yourself being more attuned to people and how they're feeling, or is that just something, or is it just something that's never appeared?
No, that's never really. No, that's never thought of that. To be honest, Ken, like that. I mean, obviously, you go in a room, and if somebody's got a face of thunder, you're probably thinking,
absolutely, definitely.
But that's pretty simple to see. So no, that's never. And I'd say I would never class myself as obviously a psychic or medium or anything like that, because I'm quite clearly not. It's just through a couple of experiences I've had. But no, I wouldn't say I'm very, can read people's feelings that well.
Just to throw one out there, though, interesting enough, Kim said to me a couple of times, and the first time she said it, she says, I'm looking at you now, and you've got like a blue and an orangish glow around the side of your head. I said,
it's already Breck.
Yes, I can't touch this stuff. But funny enough, actually, because Matilda always says, there's Daddy when on the Ready Bread adverts on.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that.
Kids are very, very attuned.
That's interesting.
When they grow up.
But it's weird. Going back to what you're saying about there is a condition. I think it's called hypothymesia. I think it is, which is and it's to do with basically a bit like a sort of photographic memory. I think a bit like an eidetic memory type thing. But there's also something else called, I think it's
synesthesia, where you see music in colours.
Yeah, so you see colours, and I only know this because there's an author that a series of books that I read, and one of his main characters, he basically was an ex-NFL player, and he got bashed on the head and stuff, and he his emotions and the emotions in other people he perceives in colour. So he perceives death as blue. So if he goes to, he's a cop. If he goes to a crime scene and he sees a body, he just gets struck by this sense of blue, and he associates different feelings with different colours, and that's an actual genuine thing. So it goes back to what you're saying about the aura of people, and the different auras have different meanings and all of that sort of stuff. So
You're absolutely right. I think for that sort of thing, I mean, I think it'd be very interesting if that's what I mean. I think we've spoken about it in the past with regards to people who get injured or get head injuries in car crashes or big blows that they weren't expecting, and then they wake up and they're fluent in Swahili or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because that kind of implies, because if someone can wake up and they're a coal miner from Yorkshire and get hit on the head and then wake up 3 weeks later and they're fluent in Japanese, then that kind of implies that the human brain can be rewired.
Yeah.
So do we all have this latently in our pineal gland, and it has to be either activated or rewired so it works for us all? Yeah. Is that the next step in evolution for human beings?
I mean, I know they're talking about, and this could be a whole new podcast episode, they talk about the capacity of the human mind, and we're not even remotely understanding the actual power and the actual capacity of the human mind. But in the story, he's basically running down the field and he gets blindsided by another guy who tackles him, and he wakes up. Can't really remember a lot about what happened previously, but then everything that he then subsequently sees and hears and reads, he remembers. He associates everything with colour. So that goes back to what you're talking about. Is it just your brain being hardwired in a different way? Yeah. Does that mean that then mediums, are they physiologically or neurologically, sorry, not physiologically, are they neurologically wired slightly different than us?
Psychopaths are wired differently. You can go through all those sorts of criminal side of it. And
I know you looked about frontal lobe and development of frontal lobes and all that sort of stuff, can't you? But it makes you wonder if that's the case.
Yeah.
Does that mean that mediums and people that are pre-post cognition, all of that sort of thing, does that mean that
neurologically
they're different to us?
Yeah,
and I don't know.
Elon Musk has come out recently and said that they're developing a chip which will cure depression and anxiety and all that sort of stuff, which implies that these big things can be turned off.
Yeah,
and I guess essentially that means that things can be turned on.
Absolutely,
the weirdest story I saw about the mental side of things coming out in a different way is I read a story once about a guy who got hit here, who was involved, I think, in a car accident, and woke up and now no longer sees walls as walls. He sees them in mathematical formula.
Wow.
So walls. So if you look up and you see a right angle, he will see that as a right angle and the formula for it. He'll see. Everything just appears apparently wireframe and just as a formula, which I think is terrifying.
So very sort of almost Matrix-y type.
Yes,
sort of,
very much so.
Yeah,
very much so. But as you rightfully pointed out, as you asked the question, guys, so does that mean that mediums and psychics and those who have abilities, are they wired differently? In the future, the evolution of human beings is the next step to be able to unlock whatever our brains can do. Did ancient civilizations already have that ability? Because is the future of human beings literally just psychic communication, just telepathy?
Yeah.
I can see some numbers now actually, and it's telling me we're coming to the end of this episode. So that might be a part 2 that we then investigate.
You can't write this. You really can't. It's got to be organic. It has to happen naturally.
Yeah. So, to be honest, I found that a really interesting episode. And I always, to be honest, about 5 minutes ago, Gaz pointed at the timer and sort of said, and you think, wow, that has whipped by. And I think that happens in the ones that sort of grasp our imagination the most. So, we'll definitely do another episode on this. Sid, would you like to come back for that one?
Absolutely, loved it. Excellent,
brilliant stuff. It was good to see you, Sid. I haven't seen you since last time I came to our tour stage, but it's good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too, mate. I've seen you obviously when watching the podcast, but yeah,
of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice to talk again.
Great stuff. Did you want to say anything?
No, loved it.
Yeah. So we'll say our goodbyes then, Andy.
Yeah, see you later. Thanks for coming on. It's been
interesting
to listen to. I need more beer.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one, dude.
Yeah,
the night is young. We got time.
Ken?
Thanks a lot for having me on, guys. It's been a brilliant chat. I really enjoyed hearing about Sid's experience, and again, similar to my own, where I went in as a skeptic and had a very interesting experience. For the next one, I will dig out the spirit drawing and the notes that Sam made. But yeah, it's been a brilliant one, and I say the time flies. So looking forward to the next one, guys.
Brilliant. Sidley?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, thanks a lot. Echoing what Ken said there. Yeah, good to hear someone else who's actually experienced something like that as well. So yeah, excellent, and good input from Andy as well.
Yeah.
You'll get to know that Andy's the silent assassin. He's like the voice of sort of reason. If he says something, literally he's like a ninja. He's like a silent ninja. That's what he is.
I am really looking forward to the episode where Andy just talked all the way through and we can't get a word in. I really can't wait for that.
Belgian beer, mate. It's already happened.
Oh, down.
Yeah, what the part two of the beer one? Gaza?
Yeah, been great, guys, and eye-opening in as much as, you know, I didn't realise, obviously Sid's my brother, and I didn't realise that he'd had a couple of those experiences and stuff. So that's, like, from a personal point of view, that's brilliant, Sid. Thanks for that. I didn't know that. Look forward to the next one. Loved it.
Was it? You know, as you said, as you alluded to, it's not something you go around saying.
No. Well, it's like Adam said, when we talked about our thing, we've known each other for 20 plus years, and we've never spoken about it, even though we have very similar interests. We've never spoken about that because you just don't. So
no. Look forward to the next one.
Exactly. And as I said, if you are psychic, if you're interested in what we said and you'd like to come on and talk about it, get in touch. Go to tallboyradio.com, drop us a message. You hit the email and social media from there. So until next time, when no doubt we'll have plenty more stuff to talk about. Take care.